there were shady back alley deals afoot. And to be completely honest, none of us really knew what it was about. We just knew it involved flexing, a high banker, and some gold.
Want to go fitty-fitty?
Yep. With the negotiations well and truly sorted, we set about high banking.
Parkour! Oh, stop! You can fit so many bodies in this.
Oh yeah.
So many bodies! My mum says I'm not allowed to play with knives.
You handed it the wrong way.
What? I gave you the handle, that's safe.
Depends.
Maybe you shouldn't be allowed to play with knives.
Depends if you're living life on the edge like me. A rebel to society. You don't know where I'll turn up, but I'll be there. Yeah.
With all of that cleared up, we managed to get our high banker set up, our pump laid out, and everything ready to go gold prospecting. We were in a spot that had historically given us a lot of gold, which would make sense as to why we decided to drag all this machinery down to try and get more of it.
Literally every other high banker I have ever used in my life takes an eternity to set up. Not this one. The one from Stumpy Picks, that took us, what, maybe 3 minutes?
One of my biggest pet hates is waiting for the gold to come out of the ground.
Water. It's how you check if everything's level.
So setting up high bankers is rather annoying.
Level enough for us princesses. Archery, gunsmithing, and petrol pumps all involve long threads. Accuracy by volume. The power.
Knowing the location to multiple different types of switches and buttons is an incredibly important skill to have in your life. Because the right buttons are how you get the juices flowing.
High banking in Victoria is, for the moment, still lawful. Pretty much everywhere else in the country, though, it isn't. So yeah, I'm allowed to do this the way that we're doing this. You might not be. And it is definitely worth checking your local laws and regulations so you don't become government daddy's latest bitch. Everything's running, but we kind of got to show you Gadsy and the gold. High bankers are what we call a force multiplier. Like, we can only do so many pans a day. The high banker does the pans for us. And that means that we can take low-grade ground and actually get good gold takes from it.
So many people love the idea of high bankers because of that force multiplying factor. But they are not without their problems. Setting them up takes time. They also cost money to run. Packing them down also takes time. And usually they produce a lot of concentrates that are tedious to go through. But the biggest downside is it's very hard to track the gold whilst you're using a high banker.
I actually think this is going to be a pretty good pan, Gadsy. Yeah, if we're getting that every couple of shovels, we'll be laughing. By the end of the day, we'll have Bonanza City. Even though the gold here is very fine, there's heaps of it, and high bankers can process a lot of this dirt real fast. Well, I think that's about enough talking.
Yeah.
Let's get shoveling.
This is what we call early onset enthusiasm. You see, in the previous week, using nothing but a pan, both Gadsy and I pulled multiple grams of gold out of this exact same hole. And our test pans had shown that there was still gold there even though the main deposit had been mostly worked out. Not enough gold to pan, but hopefully, or at least our hope was, that there would be more than enough gold for us to high bank a decent take for the day. And so it began, our rock washing odyssey. With every shovel, we knew we were adding a little bit of gold to our sluice box.
Normally on Reedy Creek, if you got really thick clay with no gravel in it, you wouldn't process it for gold, but in this case, in this spot, it actually has gold in it, which means we're probably going to have to reprocess all our tailings. But that's part of it. We're using a high banker, not a trommel. They're not designed to break up clay. This type of clay, though, is loaded. This is where the real good stuff is, and luckily for us, it breaks up super easy. Look at that. Between Gadsy and I shoveling, we've processed around 50 shovels worth of dirt. That'd be 25 pans worth, and we've done that in less than 20 minutes. So the power of these little units is amazing.
Here's a short ADHD musical montage break.
You got to think, every time you put a shovel in the high banker, you're getting anywhere between 10 and 100 flakes of gold. You know, 100 at the good end, 10 at the bad end, but every single shovel has gold. And we just did a shovel in less than 10 seconds. I don't want to freak anyone out, but it's raining. I haven't seen rain in years.
What is rain?
It comes from up there.
Oh.
And it makes the water do that thing. You know, the circles. We found some bedrock. So Gadsy's just doing a test pan. Look at that. Shattered, broken bedrock. If you're following along at home, never ever use a side-to-side motion with the Garrett Super Sluice because it will lose gold. If you use front and back like that, it likes to keep it.
Because you can't see how much gold is in the sluice box until you clean it out, you have to test pan fastidiously. And that's what we were doing.
Oh yeah. I reckon there's going to be a rich pocket down there.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the bottom. We just got to follow it in. You're coming home with us. You're going to live in jars on shelves.
But jars on shelves would have to wait. It's very easy to count the gold in the sluice box when you haven't actually looked in the sluice box. But gold fever had us, and so we started shoveling like madmen.
The mats are looking okay. I think we should stop it and have a look. Oh, peace and quiet. Oh yeah. We got gold in that.
And wouldn't you know it, the machine designed to catch gold was catching gold. But it was at this point that Gadsy's attention had been captured like a magpie to a shiny thing, and he decided to test our tailings. We knew there was gold in the clay that was hard to break up, and we wanted to know how much we were losing off the back.
And so this is the problem with this spot. The really hard clay actually has gold in it. So we are going to be losing a fair amount of gold off the back of the high banker and all of those clay balls.
If I'm being honest with you, that's really not that much gold. So we decided to just let it sit there.
Did you just say turn on the yabby pump?
Yes, I did. So turn on the yabby pump.
Turn on the yabby pump.
Turn on the yabby pump.
Sir, that is clearly a night dredge.
Let's get through the list of the most commonly asked questions about high banking. You should set your sluice box angle up for 1 inch of drop for every foot of sluice run you have, and then make adjustments to that angle based on what your dirt's doing. The width of your sluice box dictates how fast you can feed it. The length of your sluice box dictates how long you can let it run. How well your spray bars are set up is more important than what kind of matting you use, because the cleaner your rocks are, the more gold goes down your sluice box. Matting is specific to your area. I like expanded mesh over either miner's moss or astroturf because it's more versatile. And there are different laws and legislation on using high bankers and dredging systems depending on where you live, and it is your responsibility to figure that stuff out. Don't trust every 2-bit YouTuber telling you one rule for an area you might not live in.
I finally punched all the way to the bedrock. And we were bringing up this sort of stuff. We thought, oh, bonanza, and we tested it and got 10 specs per pan. So we've shifted places back to where we were getting 20 to 50, and it's full of wood.
So much wood.
Look,
Wouldn't you believe it?
just so much, like, clean off your woody.
Make sure to clean your wood.
Gotta clean your wood, Gadsy.
Nothing worse than dirty wood.
Here's a piece of clean wood.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Other than our box being uneven, because you can see the black sand accumulating on the lower side of the screen and not the higher side, which means we've got to shunt the box just a little bit that way. Not actually seeing any kind of significant migration at all, which is really good.
The Australian government approves of that message.
I'm getting a really decent pile of gold up here. And that is also excellent, so that we know there's going to be a bunch of gold in this mat. There's probably going to be a bunch of gold up in this mat. And we'll be rich.
Yeah!
Oyster rich by the end of this.
With the promise of oysters and whiskey in my future, I put my feet up and listened to the cows.
Why are you making the cows angry?
I'm going to get steak tonight. Yeah.
With the cow break over, you guessed it, it was back to digging. And then, probably one of the most unexpected things that could have happened.
It hasn't rained in months. Months, Gadsy.
Getting down my back.
I know, it's all cold and stuff.
You gotta remember, as Australians, rain is a foreign concept. Or at least, it is when you're in a drought. At any rate, I decided to check our tailings from the other end of our sluice. This is the end of the sluice that most people worry about loss. And rightly so. If you're using a subpar mat, or you don't know what you're doing, this is where your loss generally comes from. The only thing you actually have to pay attention to is the fact that literally everything loses a little bit of gold. It's about how much gold it loses.
Well, that's a good thing. We've got black sand in the tailings and no gold. So we're not losing anything of significance out of the high banker.
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. This is just a lot of shoveling and a lot of repetitiveness. So just imagine everything you've already seen me show you times by about 2.
Our test pans are consistently showing us worse and worse gold. And that's just it, no spot lasts forever. So test panning regularly saves you from moving a lot of unnecessary dirt. We did manage to get that sluice re-leveled out though a bit, that's good. Cleanups always are tedious and take forever no matter what high banker you use. So I am just going to hyperlapse most of this. This is everything out of the top piece of miners moss. So we'll just have a quick look in that and find out how much gold we either did or didn't get. You really want to do these cleanups at home because the black sand is usually quite thick. And remember, this is just the top piece of miner's moss, so there's going to be... Oh, yeah. yeah, there's gold in that. So this is not going to show you how much gold is in there in total. This is just going to give you a look at the idea that we were getting gold in that mat. Oh, yes.
We got the gold.
We got some gold in that mat, Gadsy. Got a nice red garnet out of the main mat cleanup. And we're just having a look in there. It's very hard to see because it's so fine.
With our hole decidedly done and our cleanup complete, it was time to do one last important job, and that's reclamate the area that we were working. There are only 4 reasons that you wouldn't reclamate after doing a high banking session or panning session just like this. The first one is that you're a jerk. The second one is that you don't care about natural areas. The third one is that your mummy still cleans up after you. Or the last one is all of the above. If you're one of the lowlifes that trash these areas, f*** you. It wasn't until I got home and got all the cons cleaned up that I realised we were in for a nasty shock. We did get gold, but we must have been working a very small pay layer.
Well, that's all the gold Gadsy and I managed to recover from a high banking session, which is not that great. It kind of looks like there must have been a really rich pay layer, and that pay layer we punched through.
It's a super common story with high banking. People think that you're going to be on the gold all day if you just dig, and we made sure we test panned along the way to see where the gold was sitting, which is why we did get some. But if it's only a thin layer of pay dirt, it's very difficult to follow when you're only using a shovel.
I'm going to guess there's about a gram there. There might be a little less. Oh, not quite. 0.735.
3/4 of a gram of rue. That's about 0.36, 0.37 grams each, which is not a lot. I think I'm just going to give it all to Gadsy and let him decide what he wants to do with it.